Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner, with another episode of VSW. Thank you. Today, we got another guest on our podcast. Mike Panchu from the Lightzilla podcast is going to be talking with us about WWE and the business side of things.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for having me, Versace Stoner. Pleasure to be here, and yeah, we'll get right into it. The business side of WWE. We've talked about this a lot through the DMs, and I honestly don't get it. WWE is not dead. It really isn't. It's a business like anything else. They're booming like never before. They're making so much money. They're at the top. They have no competition.
I mean, that is the facts. I mean, yes, I wouldn't say they don't have competition. There's other wrestling out there. You do got the emergence of AEW. While they're not the same caliber of money standard as WWE, they're out there. They give them a little run for the money. You got other New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact. You got all these other smaller companies. That is their competition, but at the same time, WWE has owned the market since day one. You know, since they bought out WCW and ECW and consolidated the company, they really have dominated the market. They have the heritage that's solidified in the wrestling history world. Well, if you're a new fan, you're going to go back and you're going to watch WrestleMania 2, 3, 4. You're going to see what they used to have. If you're an old fan, you remember it. They always have something that somebody in this era can grasp to. And, you can't say that about, these other companies. 50 years ago, 40 years ago, rather, they didn't exist. Absolutely. They weren't there.
Yeah. And it's definitely mainstream. And like we talked about, this is probably as mainstream it's ever going to get. Like, there's folks who don't watch the product, but they know of the product and they know who wrestler X, Y, and Z is without ever watching an episode of Raw.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you can see, there's a lot of people that say it was the biggest top height of its mainstream was, the Attitude Era, but you got to look at the time. The demographic at the time was young teens, early adults, and, this, obviously, the sex appeal to it and everything, the crazy storylines, the violence, today's 316, the Stone Cold era, that really took that generation by storm. I remember it as a kid. I was in high school. It was great. It worked for us. Everybody was watching. Everybody was talking about it. Today, it's not so much that everybody's watching it, but everybody's still talking about it. You don't have everybody watching the weekly shows like you do before. Social media has played a big part in this. You have people recapping it. You have people reviewing. You have people live tweeting it. You have any information that you need to find out about what's going to happen on the show live or what's going to happen later on, you can find on the internet. This eliminates the need to, be glued to the TV for 2 to 3 hours.
Absolutely. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't see that per se. And yeah, TV is not a big deal anymore. Everyone's just caught up in their own world.
No, the ratings aren't as important as they're meant to be. Yeah. It doesn't really matter if 2 million people watch Raw or if 1 million people watch Raw. The fact of the matter is those 2 million people or 1 million people are still fans whether they watch the show or not.
Definitely. And I would even say if Raw gets like a 1.9 rating, that's still a big deal in today's world with all the distractions we have going on, the iPhones, the tablets, everything else. People are still tuning in to some capacity.
Oh yeah, you have wrestling going against major TV shows, major premieres, episodes of shows, where they have in the 5 ratings, Wednesday night, wrestling went up against South Park. I'm sure they didn't, beat them out, but they went up against it. You didn't see this back in the day. There wasn't such mainstream shows going on, and wrestling was kind of in its own corner, and only wrestling fans really paid attention. Now we've dragged in the outside world into the wrestling world. We have celebrities being dragged in. We had Tyson Fury last year from the boxing world. Now we got Bad Bunny. he's blowing up the scene, and he's brought in a whole new crowd of fans.
Definitely, all just because of one person. And yeah, like you said, people took that by storm. They tuned in. I mean, they're getting that casual audience who honestly never watched before and will probably be lifelong fans now.
They probably will, and if they're not, they at least have now watched the product. They know of it. They know who WWE is. They know who Bad Bunny is, of course, and they're gonna know who else everybody else is from just watching it. I mean, there's no surprise that he got #1 sales for merch in 2021 so far.
Wow.
I mean, that's outselling The Fiend, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns. You know, his shirt that he had at Royal Rumble sold out completely. And now his other shirts are starting to do the same at the WWE shop. And, you know, in the Latin world, he's huge. You know, a lot of American fans don't see the importance of him being in the WWE. They just, oh, it's another celebrity. Oh, I don't understand his music. Oh, it's this and that. But that's not the facts. Regardless if you understand his music or not, he's the #1 top singer in Latin American music right now. That is huge to have him part of the WWE wrestling world.
Absolutely. 1000% agreed. And what else? Even, too, the company is very global. Like, we see they're doing shows everywhere. Saudi, India, like...
Oh, yeah. I mean, before the pandemic, we were taking off WWE. It was going everywhere. You know, they had global pay-per-views happening.
Bigger than Mania.
Yeah, that Bigger Than Mania show. And then, you know, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I think that India show earlier this year would have been done live in India.
For sure.
And no doubt when it goes back to regular times, I'm sure Vince will go back to Saudi, England, other places. You know, he's always been kind of one to do the next biggest thing for wrestling and take it to the next stage.
Making it global, just having shows everywhere
Exactly.
as
I
possible.
mean, he was the first one to really make it national. He was the first one to take it to Canada. You know, Canada obviously had their own wrestling, but he brought WrestleMania to Canada. You know, he's brought it to England when he was, you know, in the early SummerSlams. He's done all these things that weren't done prior. And that's, you know, that's part of the reason why he's as big as he is and his company is solidified in the wrestling world. It's far from dead. You know, regardless of what Twitter the world seems to think and fans seem to say, WWE is far from dead. Because of all this rich history that he has and work he's put into it.
Absolutely. And yeah, it doesn't matter if an episode of Raw's trash or SmackDown or a pay-per-view, people still find a way to talk about it.
They do, and even if it's negative, they're still talking about it.
Oh yeah, I've seen so many tweets. I'm not watching the pay-per-view 2 hours later. Hey, how's the pay-per-view?
I've seen so many tweets that this show sucks. But for you to say that means you've had to watch the show. And I've seen them say the same thing the week after. So they're continuing to watch the show. They're continuing to support the product, whether they like it or they don't like it. WWE has these people, lifelong fans. They'll watch it just to complain, but they're still watching it. It's still something that's going into Vince's pocket, whether it's a view, a YouTube view, you know, a video game purchase, figure, a toy, whatever it is, he's got something for you.
Best way to put it, a watch is a watch.
It is.
And their YouTube channel, they have more subscribers than the NBA and the UFC, last I checked. That's honestly insane.
That is insane. Those are two major sports that, you know, go before WrestleMania, before all of that. You know, these people, you know, I think, you know, professional sports outdraws wrestling.
Yeah.
At least in the United States. Global-wide, I can say no. I mean, foreign countries eat up the WWE like there's no tomorrow. India loves pro wrestling. They love it. They just do. You know, they might not like so much basketball, but they will love pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's insane, and congratulations to them for that. And they put out a lot of good content now, though, on YouTube. It's become like their free network.
Definitely. Like, missed an episode of Raw, it's there, compacted into a YouTube video. You can catch everything and
catch the best. You know, before you'd have to wait for a magazine to come out to show you a highlight of what was on, a TV show 3 weeks ago because, the magazine only came out 1 month. Now, within, 5 minutes of whatever happened, you can get the recap. Never mind 5 minutes after the episode, it's already out to you. Like you said, compact, ready to go. Best footage that's available from the show. You don't have any of the filler content. And it's done. You're there. I mean, that's precision and that's accuracy in my perspective.
Even with the tweets too, whatever happens on Raw or SmackDown, it's already on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook.
They are very fast to be on there. As soon as sometimes I swear they even get it before it happens. They really do. And they always, they seem to get a good picture, a good shot, a good video, whatever it is. And that's really engaging because us as fans are watching it on TV. We can kind of engage with their Twitter, with their social media. Sometimes some of the wrestlers even come back and and tweet too. And you have that level of interaction that we didn't have back in the 90s in the Attitude Era.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say maybe it is more mainstream now because we didn't have these outlets to push it. Well, now we have these social media outlets to push, these wrestlers' accounts in their names. They have TikToks. They have whatever they have going out, and everybody knows them. That's world, global wide. That's not just U.S.
Definitely. And the social media market, like you said, that's a good move on WWE's part. They can just get so much money from just social media.
It is, and now, they, it kind of sucks that they're making everybody use their real names, and they kind of have put copyrights on the wrestlers' names for using their names as trying to make money on these platforms. But at the same time, I can see Vince, he has copywritten a lot of these characters. He, written them, wrote the storylines or whatever, him and the creative team, and worked very hard to get them to where they have to be. And sometimes just the smallest, littlest mistake on social media can ruin a wrestler's name.
For sure.
Especially with cancel culture. All they have to do
yeah.
is say the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person, and they're over with.
Oh, yeah.
So I can see Vince taking precaution in this day and age and kind of wielding the reins and say, you can say what you want to say, but you're going to say that on your own name, not what's WWE's property.
Absolutely. Crazy times we live in.
It is. But it's also a great time, I think it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. When you can, when you got like 4 or 5 major shows on a week, that's good. That's good for wrestling.
That sums it up absolutely. Best time to be a wrestling fan, not a WWE fan, because there's just so much content out there. Like, you can never get bored. There's something for everyone. There
is. If you're not really a fan of WWE, then you can tune into AEW. If you're not really a fan of this AEW, guess what? There's a host of independent wrestling promotions out there that put on shows every day of the week almost on Independent Wrestling TV. It's a network. You can check it out. I've seen now that like Pluto TV, a free TV, I would say like, I don't know what they really call it, but it's like Pluto TV. It's got like thousands of like free TV channels or something. They now have a wrestling channel, which just shows non-stop independent wrestling over and over and over again, all day on loop. That's great. You got wrestling being shown on Twitch now. Impact Wrestling, all day long on Twitch.
Nice.
Like you said, there's something out there for everyone, and it doesn't have to cost money to watch it. Back in the day, we had if you didn't have cable, before even weekly television, you just had pay-per-views. Now, today, you get to see, whatever you want on YouTube, like you said, for free. It's great. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah. I remember those days where pay-per-views cost you an arm and a leg.
They do,
Order it without your parents' permission, and they would absolutely lose it.
You'd be grounded for a week. Everybody would be mad in the house. And you would just hope they wouldn't find out why your friends were still over, because you didn't want to be embarrassed, of course.
Okay. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to show that I'm a wrestling fan. Like, it's very out there. You go to someone's social media account, you can put 2 and 2 together. You know who's a wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, like, this mainstreamness, now they got this big partnership with Peacock TV. That's genius. Genius. not only does it get them into another network with mainstream television, it also just opens up the market. Anybody with a Comcast subscription gets a free Peacock premium subscription, which means anybody right now with Comcast can watch WWE Network at no cost. This is going to open up the whole world. There's so many people out there that didn't want to spend the money to get the network, that like wrestling or used to watch wrestling, and now can just turn on their TV, put on the Peacock Network, and check out an old pay-per-view.
Definitely.
I mean, that's genius.
I will say I'm incredibly impressed by the WWE Network in general because Vince launched his own network before Disney. To me, that's insane.
That is very true, to think about that. I never really thought about that. And that's exactly true. He did. He put out his own network before the Disney did. And it's been a great success. And every month they add more and more content. You find these old videos that, you thought were lost forever, hidden gems. You got the specials, the 24/7s, the documentaries. The one on Yokozuna had me, You got all this content, all these old shows, ECW, WCW, Saturday Night Main Event. Now they took in all the independents that they could get, Evolve, and all these other ones that are no longer running. And you have all this content in one small place. Before it was $9.99. Now you can get it $4.99 with some ads. And like I said, if you're a Comcast subscriber, you get it for free, all of it. That's genius. That's going to bring a whole new demographic to watching wrestling. If they see that, they're going to want to maybe tune in Monday night or Friday night to see what's happening in today's wrestling world.
For sure. And there's still big money to be made off old school wrestling, absolutely. Hogan, Stone Cold, The Rock, they're still heavily featured in many marketing campaigns for WWE.
Oh, yeah. Not even to have them even on the show, but just legends in general equal money. You can throw out a Stone Cold t-shirt, people are going to buy it. Today's 3/16 day, like I said earlier. A lot of places are selling Stone Cold specialized merchandise, and I see it flying like hotcakes. You can throw Undertaker stuff out there. Any of these old guys, and it's going to sell. And there is that market for the nostalgia of what wrestling used to be, and there's also the market for the new wrestling that is today. So, like I said, they have the best of both worlds all in one place.
For sure. Best way to sum it up. I really wouldn't say it's dead. It's just different today. As long as you adapt to it, you can have an enjoyable time watching the product.
It is. It like you said, it's not dead. It's far from dead. It's very much alive and living. It's just, you're right, it's a change that's evolved into something different. It's not what we used to have. The fans aren't what they used to be either. Everybody's kind of changed a little bit. If you're on Twitter and you follow in the wrestling community, you're going to see a lot of negativity about everything wrestling related. And this isn't by outsiders, this is by wrestling fans. They will downgrade, downsize, and destroy anything that they do not like in the wrestling world. Whether you like it or not, they do not care. And I think this is one of the major differences in wrestling today than it was in the yesteryear.
I agree.
Have you accounted a lot of this on your social media ventures?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've received more negative WWE comments than positive.
Yeah, me as well. I don't really take sides. If there's something wrong, they did wrong, I'll fault it. Both companies, major companies right now, both have faulted many times. AEW, WWE, they botched thousands and thousands of times. Everybody does. Mistakes happen everywhere. Nobody's perfect. We can't expect them to be. Yes, I think they hold WWE to a higher standard because it's been around so long and it is the name of what wrestling is. But at the same time, you got to remember they're just a company. These people are just humans like you or I, just doing their job Monday through Monday. Actually, they don't get days off.
And we're lucky to even have them around during the pandemic. They're running around doing all these shows, risking their health essentially.
Oh yeah, Vince pulled major strings to get pro wrestling deemed essential in Florida, so he could have given us WrestleMania last year. We almost didn't have a WrestleMania last year.
Scary thought.
You remember that? Okay, he got them deemed essential so he could run a show there. Then, he kept it going, and he got us wrestling throughout this whole pandemic. He introduced us into the Sky Dome to get live fans a semi-live from home to be featured on TV and to kind of give an atmosphere that there's fans in the crowd. Very cool idea. I got on there on SummerSlam. It was a lot of fun. This is all innovative ideas and different ways to actually, bring us together during these crazy times.
Oh, that brings me to the shows virtually. What was it? If you had like a Snickers bar on camera, they would kick you off.
Oh, yeah. They were a little bit heavy on what you showed and what you were doing. They didn't want people eating or drinking. They didn't want masks. They didn't want you to get up and leave in the middle of the show. Nothing obscene. There was kind of tight in there. And some people got in. Some people got in doing some crazy things. But there's a lot of people that got kicked off just for, having a snack. And it was a long 3 hours to kind of sit down and not be able to get up and move much. But like I said, I enjoyed the experience because it was the first time. It was fun. Did I go back again? No.
Same here.
But, it was a one and done event. I was supposed to go to that SummerSlam here in Boston, so I was like, you know what, damn it, I'm going virtually.
Yeah. And that goes back to the business side of things. Like, the company doesn't want another logo, per se, to be shown on their cameras.
No, they don't want any logos to be shown. They don't like you to wear other company t-shirts to their shows. And, they don't like a lot of... There's certain things you can do and can't do at a WWE show. They really don't want AEW to be shown at all. They don't want to give them any free publicity. Because you got to remember, WWE is and does get millions of views. Why would they want to give competitors free advertisement? And that's all it would be.
Agreed.
People say they're controlling, but it's not. Why would anybody want to give their competitor free advertising, especially when they pay so much for their own?
For sure. And yeah, like we talked about earlier, a lot of fans don't view WWE through that business lens. It's whatever I see on TV. They're so trapped in the storylines.
The storylines and the wrestling, and if the wrestling was good, and the botches, and the stupid storylines, and if, who's with this, and what's going on. And even what's going on social media in the real world. Recently you've seen Jim Cornette doing some crazy stuff once again. You see Mero coming and screaming. Everybody gets wrapped up. You got rappers, Soulja Boy, and Little Bow Wow attacking wrestlers on social media, calling wrestling fake. I seen the Iron Sheik tear him apart the other day, socially.
It's all mainstream attention.
That's mainstream attention to me. You got rappers with millions of followers fighting wrestlers with millions of followers, and everybody's just, at it. It's pretty good.
Win-win.
It is a win-win.
A lot of fans say, too, that Vince will never have another mainstream star, but he's got multiple, in my opinion. He's got Roman. I see the huge potential in Drew. Sasha, absolutely.
Oh, and you can't forget The Fiend. His momentum might have died down a little bit, but think 2019. The Fiend was on fire. He was number one. He was selling the number one merch at the time. Everybody wanted a Bray Wyatt something or another, They sold his mask. They sold everything. His work inside and outside the ring is tremendous. So you have him. Yes, you have the mainstream stars that you just mentioned as well. I think Roman Reigns definitely has the capability. Look at his family heritage. Look at his line. Family like The Rock, Yokozuna, Sika, Fada, the Head Shrinkers, all these people. He's mainstream now. Everybody loves Roman Reigns. Like I said, you can't look at an American fan base. An American fan base is very shallow. Look at a worldwide fan base. Millions of people in foreign countries know Roman Reigns and love him. I see groups all the time in Facebook, and they add me in because I'm a friend with somebody, and they throw me in, and there's 1,000 people, and half of them don't speak English, and they're going on, but I'll get the gist of what's going on. And mostly it's about wrestling, and mostly it's about, how great Roman Reigns is, how great, whoever they're talking about. They love Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair, whoever it is. And they're so passionate about it and so, dedicated to it as a sport. And you don't really see that here too much often with American fans, I think, because we're so used to it. We've been witnessing it for, 37, 40 years. We've seen it all, but for foreign fans, they haven't got to see everything. They haven't seen it all. They're just discovering some of the stuff that we saw 20 years ago. This is great for them, too. And that goes back to the network. That's great. Globalization. Everybody in the world can own the WWE network.
That's huge. Absolutely.
Even AEW can't even decide, who gets to watch what pay-per-view where. Half of us in the U.S. we got to watch on BR. The rest of the world gets to watch on Fight. It's very confusing on who gets what and which and where and when. WWE has it in one spot, one place, everybody. They do their shows, obviously for our time zones, but when they do foreign films and they're in other countries, they do it at their time zones. And, we get a pay-per-view in 12 in the afternoon. It's globalization, and Vince is doing a great job with it. Like I said,
he really is.
It's far from dead. It's probably growing at best.
Absolutely. And, from a business standpoint, that man is not out of touch, but from what the fans want, I'll agree there. Absolutely.
Oh, storyline, yeah, he probably is out of touch. He's set in his ways of what he thinks wrestling should be and how it should be and, how it should be displayed and what should be said. And
that he's larger-than-life image, and He's not into the 6 feet tall, leaner-looking guys. He wants, the larger-than-life,
but you got to remember who he started with. He had people like Andre the Giant and King Kong Bundy, Hulk Hogan. These were massive, massive people. Now you got in the wrestling world people like Marco Stunt and Adam Cole. Yeah, they're talented, but they're not these grandiose guys. They're not huge. They're not big stature. You wouldn't say, hey, that's a wrestler. If you seen them on the street, you might go, oh, he's just a regular guy. Back then, you seen King Kong Bundy walking down the street, you'd go, oh my God, that's a wrestler.
Absolutely. Very good way to look at it. What else? Even with the shows, too, back in the day, they had Mania at the TD Garden in Boston. That would not fly today. That arena is too small.
Exactly. They don't have him at any arenas now except football arenas. He's, up the crowd limits. He wants bigger fans. I remember being at WrestleMania 14 and going there, at Boston Garden. Exactly. That would never fly today. That he wants much, 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 much more people. They won't even do Madison Square Garden where they did WrestleMania 1. He won't do Trump Plaza. He won't do Las Vegas anymore. He doesn't do any of that he used to do. It's all, like I said, football stadiums where he has the most massivest crowds that he can get. Even this year, in the pandemic, he's still trying to push for a 50,000 capacity limit. That's insane. That's more than the Super Bowl is allowed.
Man is reaching high.
He always has. People don't get that. They don't see him from the business point of view, but if you see him from the business point of view, he's very smart.
Definitely. He's always quick to capitalize on everything, even memes.
People don't think, people might see the business side and be like, oh my God, they're letting go wrestlers. This is terrible. That's horrible. This and that. Yeah, he has his reasons. I am sure he does. Of who he keeps and who goes and what goes where. So, in Vince we trust sometimes because he's been doing it for so long. How can it, there's not much he can really do to fail it. It could be the worst pay-per-view in the world right now. Think about Hell in the Cell a couple of years back. How it ended. How the fans were. I'm never watching. People canceling subscriptions.
I'm sure they came back.
People are going nuts. And what are they all doing now? They're watching WWE product once again. Back into it. Still into it. There's not much you can do to really deter.
Yeah.
Once you're in it for life, unfortunately.
Nothing wrong with that as long as you can, control yourself and not get too flustered with what's going on. It's a good community. You make friends. I met you through wrestling. I met Brian through wrestling.
Oh, yeah. You definitely meet good people, but there's a lot, and you're right, there's a lot of negativity to weave through. Get rid of the negative. Cut that out. Just do your own thing. If you're in it, just as a regular casual fan, cool. If you're in it, and you kind of want to get into, doing your own podcast, doing your own things, that's cool. If you're a wrestler, pro wrestler, cool. Like I said, anything you do, that's great. Just cut out that negative aspect of it and the negativity. Sure. It's always going to be there. There's going to be always someone to down you. You got to just know that in the back of your head and kind of just push it aside and just keep going forward, keep going forward, keep going forward. I think that's what Vince does himself. Look how much negativity he gets on a daily basis. How many bad tweets you think he gets on a daily basis? You don't see it bother the man at all.
Nah, he's just pushing through.
Just keeps going.
And if WWE isn't mainstream and is dead, like, it wouldn't be around today.
No, it wouldn't be. It would be, major networks wouldn't be wanting any part of it. Peacock wouldn't want anything to do with it. There wouldn't be no billion-dollar deals or whatever he sold it for. None of this stuff would be happening if wrestling was dead. And if WWE was dead. He wouldn't get no sponsorships. It would just be done. Yeah, the stock might be a little low right now, but I think that's because of the pandemic. I think as soon as things get back to normal, you'll start to see it go back to where it was before, and wrestling will continue to just thrive.
Oh, yeah. Similar to cinemas, people are at a point where they forgot how fun it is to go to an event, so they'll want to go to wrestling shows, regardless if they're fans or not.
Exactly, and I think it's, like you said, and now you got all these other people coming in as other fans of other things. There's going to be people going to WrestleMania just to see Bad Bunny that probably never even saw wrestling before. They live near Florida or in Miami or wherever, and they're like, you know what? I want to see Bad Bunny. I can't afford to go see him at concert,
Definitely.
but I can go to WrestleMania and see him. I'm doing it.
Smart.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to grab a lot of people that way. Similarly, using all other celebrities at other WrestleManias and other years. These are big money names that people want to see. They'll pay to see it one way or another. And if wrestling's the cheaper of the way to see it, that will be the way they go, whether they like it or not.
Agreed. Couldn't have said it better. What else? And I mean, yeah, the ratings, they do matter, but like, it's not the end-all be-all of the company. They have a million other things going for them.
If AEW does better than NXT every week, it doesn't mean NXT is going out of business. It's not this day and age. It's not so frugal. Things aren't so simple. You got to remember, it's not just TV ratings we're talking about. You got to think how many people are just not watching it live on TV and watching it on YouTube a little bit later, or just watching on Twitter and kind of just doing their own thing, or not watching it all and just watching the next day because they recorded it. You got people that are doing all sorts of different things now because technology has changed. We have DVRs. We have all these things that we can just watch later on demand. It doesn't have to be this big necessity to watch it, oh my God, right today live, or I'm going to miss it and I'm never going to know what happened and I'm going to be the laughing stock of the community. You can find out what's going on and play right along without ever turning your TV on.
Very, very true.
That's one of the major things today. So ratings really aren't that important on who's a fan and it's really who's a fan and who's not.
Not gonna lie, there's been times too where I'm home, but I'm on my phone, and SmackDown's on. Scroll through Twitter, and I'm like, I can just find the results here. Like, I'm too lazy to turn my TV on. Like, Twitter's just moving too fast. I know what's going on. I see the clips.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you got some people that are perfect live tweeters that will tweet a show so good that you would think that you're watching it on TV. You don't have to do anything else. And this opens you up to be able to do something else that you wanted to do. Maybe you don't want to dedicate 2 hours to watch SmackDown, but you really want to know what happens because you were invested in these storylines, but you also want to watch, the new Marvel whatever show that's on whatever channel. Now you can do both. You can sit down your Twitter, you can watch your other show, and you can do both and kill two birds with one stone, which before you just couldn't do. Amazing. It's the age we're in. It's multitasking age. There's so many times I'm on my computer doing computer work, and I have the TV on just in the background, just listening to wrestling. Not even being able to watch it, just listen to the commentary to see what's going on. That's just the age we live in.
Well said. And even back at live events, some of the events we went to with Brian, everyone there is multitasking. They're on their phone, they're doing something else, like...
Oh, yeah, of course. When you go to a live wrestling event, no one's sitting in their seat watching the wrestling. Most people are on their phones tweeting about it, showing their other friends about it, videoing it, doing something. You always see a phone in hand. I've been caught on camera quite a few times, actually, with my phone in my hand on a few independent shows, and I'm like, oh, shit, I never put my phone down, did I? But I have 1,000,001 photos of that show, and that's how you do it. But, again, back in the day, everybody would just stand still. Nobody had these distractions.
Oh, yeah. We are in the distraction era.
It is. Everybody's easily distracted, for sure.
The human attention span is not what it used to be, but it is what it is.
It is. But people still know what's going on in the wrestling world, regardless of how good their attention is, because there's ways to find it. And like I said, that maybe you might think is dead because people aren't paying attention the way they used to. Doesn't matter. They're paying attention enough to know what's going on. They can find out what's going on without watching every little move and every little thing and being a super duper fan. They can still just be a normal fan, and you might not even know. You don't even know some of the fans. Some of them could live right next to you. You don't even know. You don't know about them.
I've experienced that for sure.
You know, not everybody that's a fan wears a WWE shirt. Not everybody that's a
That's the way
fan
to describe it.
Even goes to live shows. You know, some people don't have the money. Some people don't have the time. Some people don't want to travel. Some people don't have the desire to even do all that.
It's understandable. Like,
you know,
can't bash them for that.
There's fans that just strictly just watch wrestling, and that's it. And they don't get into anything extracurricular about it. Just what's on TV, and that is it. And, you know, you might casually one day bump in and say, hey, did you, and they hear you talking, and they'll say, oh, I saw that. And then you'll be, oh, wow, you watch wrestling? I'll be like, yeah. But besides that, you would never know. And, you know, there's millions of people like that out there. Not everybody has to be a super fan. This is not the way to measure how successful a business is. You know, because then when you get to too many super fans, everybody's a motherfucking mark. And then you go the other extreme, and everybody's being ridiculed because they fucking believe wrestling's the greatest thing in the world. So, I mean, nobody knows what they really want. Do they want people to not care? Do they want people to care too much? Or what?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can't really win.
I don't get this either. Like, the obsession with ratings. It's like, you don't work for the company. It's like...
I don't own the TV network. I'm not the owner of USA TV. So I don't really, you know, care how good a show does. Do I care if it's good or not? Yeah, I care if it's good or not because I'm watching it. If I'm watching and investing in it, I hope it's good. I don't want to waste 2 hours or 3 hours on something that's not good. I don't think anybody wants to do that. But at the same time, is it, you know, am I going to throw my TV set out the window, cancel my subscription, throw away my, you know, cable package and never watch it again? No, it doesn't really matter. It's wrestling. It's supposed to be meant to be fun, light, fluffy, and fun. That's about it. I mean, it's not, we're not watching, you know, the news. It's supposed to be an escape. It's supposed to be a way to relax. Some
Honestly,
people just take it too far, too extreme.
One of the best escapes if you were like a high school student back in the day, because had a bad day at school, well, you got Raw to look forward to on Monday, and then
you did. And you got to see people beat the hell out of each other. You knew they weren't getting hurt. You know, we all know it's fake. We all know it's not real. We all know that, you know, there is an element of theatrics in pro wrestling. That, you know, punches are pulled and moves aren't as painful as it looks. But, you know, people get hurt, and we know that as well. And these people sacrifice their lives every single day. Accidents can happen. People break bones, necks. You know, everything can happen. People have even died, unfortunately. And we just have to respect that. And, you know, the people that don't respect that, we kind of just have to ignore them. I think we give them too much attention.
We really do, yeah.
But if we just ignore them, let them just be about them. They don't like wrestling? Cool. Go fuck yourself. Don't watch it then. Okay? And let's just move on just, you know, to the people that do like it and just kind of focus on them. And just, that's the way that we're going to really increase the community to make it a better place and to make it a better sport for us.
For sure. And, yeah, the wrestlers, they do everything for us. Like, their paychecks, they depend on us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
To an extent.
To an extent. I mean, more so on the indie scene because, you know, they're out there selling their merch. They're selling everything. But in WWE, yeah, does they get a good salary from, you know, Vince? Sure. But where's the real money probably coming from? You know, what we buy. When we buy shirts, when we buy, you know, figures, when we buy whatever they're selling, and we're showing them off, we're wearing them, we're representing them, this is where they get their real glow.
Absolutely. Would you say to a lot of the fans who say that wrestling is dead, they just didn't want to, like, adapt to the eras throughout the years?
Exactly. I mean,
like they held on too much to The Rock, Austin, Diaz.
Exactly. You can't say it's black and white dead. It's not. It's progressed. It might not be where you want it to be, but it's very much alive. It's just not living like you want it to be. Do you have the Stone Cold running wild? No. You have Hulk Hogan running wild? No. Macho Man? No. These people, you know, unfortunately, are no longer with the company or with the company and no longer wrestling and so forth, so on. You're not going to have that. Well, that's the greatness of WWE, though. You can go back, watch that, and you can watch what's coming up and what's now. And, what their motto is, what is it? Like WWE,
Now, then, forever.
Now, then, forever. And, that really is the truth about WWE. And it will be there forever. They're not going to just go under. No matter how bad the ratings are, they're not going to just extinguish. They have people watching network, YouTube. Those ratings aren't counted. Old wrestling isn't counted. How many people rewatch an old pay-per-view isn't counted, in these ratings. So.
And going back to the cable TV, I mean, Fox wanted WWE. I mean, that alone speaks volumes.
Fox wanted them exactly. And you know what, to be honest with you, cable isn't what it used to be so important before anyways. I mean, now you got non-cable packages like YouTube that just stream the channels anyways. So, I mean, those ratings don't count for anybody because they're digital, but, cable isn't this war like it was in the late 90s. This dominant
Definitely
force. And also, Vince isn't going up such a dominant opponent. Yes, AEW is great, and they got a lot of good stars, and they're doing good, but it doesn't have the heritage and history that WCW had. WCW had been running just as long as WWF and WWE at the time that he had beat them. So,
right.
They were equals. This isn't equal now. AEW is a new company.
Yeah, I like AEW, but I feel like they should stay in their own lane. Like
they do. They need to stay in their own lane. They need
some
to
fans
not.
don't think that. They think they're trying to compete with WWE, but that's all false.
Well, I mean, they're not trying to compete, but there is the digs, and maybe they need to calm down on the digs a little too. I get some of their ex-talent aren't the happiest about leaving WWE and how they were treated, but you don't need to air your dirty laundry out in public. If you have a gripe with somebody, don't always have to make a big dig about it on national TV. Kind of, put that aside, be a professional, and let's just let the show go on.
Agreed, 100%.
So when I say wrestling dead, wrestling is far from dead. It's more alive than it ever was. You got more people waiting to hear about when WrestleMania tickets are going to go on sale this week than ever before.
Do you feel like it'll come back even stronger post-pandemic?
Oh, yeah. They've done a great job to keep people entertained and keep people motivated. So I think they're going to really, when they're full capacity, I think everybody is going to be amped beyond belief to be back and show support to all these wrestlers and to the WWE themselves.
Entertainment, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day.
Well, it is. That's what the E stands for, entertainment. You got to remember that. They're there to entertain. But you got to also remember, what I find entertaining, you might not find entertaining, and what you find entertaining, the next guy might not. So with all this being said, everybody's got to just kind of pick and choose what they like about it and let the next man enjoy what they like.
That's a great analogy. I'm glad I heard that.
But with that, I think we're just about out of time for today. I thank you, Mike Panchu. I thank you for joining us on the VSW. And tell them a little bit. You got about a minute or so. If you want to tell them a little bit about your podcast, go for it.
Oh, yes. So I run a podcast with a friend of mine called Lifezilla. We're still doing some episodes in the dark. You can check those out soon. You can keep up to date with me at michael.panchu on Instagram and TikTok and Clubhouse. Other than that, I'm in this competition right now where I'm competing to be featured in the Yoga Journal magazine. If y'all could vote for me, that'd be super appreciated. You can find the link in my IG bio. That's about it. Thanks again for having me. VSW.
Great, thank you. And Versace Stoner out.